we have to fail. We have to go hard. And like every time you go in the gym, there is no like, oh, I need to do like 10 sets at like RPE 6. Like you're a fucking dork. No, you need to especially for a sport like powerlifting, you need to fucking lift hard. You need to lift heavy and you need to do it often. It needs to become like second nature.
Welcome to Iron Summit, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of becoming your best self, blending expert insights on strength training, smart recovery, optimal nutrition, and mindset mastery to help you elevate your game.
Taper.
Whoever's doing it, you would make so much money if you really went all in.
We're live.
We're live. Let's go, Cooper. Today, we have one of the most special of guests, training expert. Actually, was my trainer personally. One of the people I respect his opinion on training science the most. Also, a good friend of mine, co-worker, got a huge, diverse training background, which we'll get into. I don't want to spoil everything in the intro, so Cooper Napoli, welcome aboard.
What's up, gang? Thanks for having me.
What's up? Hey, you forgot to put in there, Max, expert igloo builder. Probably my favorite thing is follow Cooper on Instagram. He's always going on side quests, and he recently built an igloo and lived in it for a night.
And yeah, there was no reason other than just to try it out and have fun. I mean, like you said, yeah, accruing the side quest experience is it's an important step in life for you to take.
Well, Cooper and I, we just went to a conference in Las Vegas together for work. And the night before we have to drive, well, actually, we're going to lift together. We did legs. The night before we lift together, do legs, and then drive 7 hours to Las Vegas, Cooper decided to just hike into the woods and sleep outside.
Yeah.
I respect that so much.
There is a reason for all this, and it's actually tied to my sleep. I slept like shit for most of my life, and so I'm like, fuck this like pussy ass. I need to take my melatonin and my magnesium and like all this stuff. It's like I've been taking that shit. Like, yeah, I sleep a lot better since like dialing it all in and like doing everything right all day every day. But like for me, it's like, if I can learn how to sleep in the shittiest conditions, I bet you I'll sleep better. And so where people are running away from having the worst night of sleep, which by the way, I think I had that night I slept outside. It's, like I think I can, there's something I will eventually adapt to, or I'll be able to just fall asleep like a fucking kid on a car ride.
And this was outside, like in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah,
this
was 28.
Early April, which it's cold. Like that's cold. Cooper's like, yeah, I'm just going to go sleep in the woods.
Wait, Cooper, so why do you sleep so bad, or why did you sleep a lot worse growing up?
I think just like it's just stress. Like, and I think growing up, like I was a stressed out kid, dude. Like I did not have a good, it was either always on or like always off. And I think like in the military, which is, largely what I was training for in high school and other things, like you are like kind of trained that like any like noise at night, like anything, like you get up, you go like 100 miles per hour. And I lost the plot on that switch being a dial instead, a while ago, and feel like, yeah, like it's one of those things where like if I like get too upregulated, like it's just not happening. And so yeah, that's where a lot of the issues came from, and I think supplementation and diet were like minor parts, but they've been major helps, in terms of nailing that stuff down to make it better in the day to day. And like, but definitely, yeah. Think that like leaning a little more into like finding what makes sleep difficult and doing it out in the wild where it's not easy to do is something that I hope over time helps me. It's a self experiment.
This dude is progressively overloading his sleep.
Yeah.
Don't go into Cooper's house in the middle of the night because he's just amped, ready to kill.
This is true. I do like that, though. You're literally taking training principles and applying it to your sleep, which I think is genius.
But why would you do it the night before a work trip?
And the leg day.
Well, I mean, okay, well, there's also no excuse, right? Like, I mean, I'm not going to fucking like not do the leg day. And like all we got to do is sit in the car, the next day. So it's like, yeah, fuck it. Like I've had so many bad nights of sleep in my life that I'm like, I know, like it just sucks, but every second is the same when you're tired as when you're fresh. So it all fucking goes by at some point.
Did you hit a PR on that leg day?
Yeah, I fucking ripped a squat PR after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny too is it doesn't like I've never had like one bad night of sleep affect a single fucking thing about training.
That's super.
2, 3, 4, yeah, I'm like fucking hurt. Like there's like a lot I need to adjust in training that day, but otherwise it just kind of sucks to warm up, and then once you're warm, you're fine. Once you're up, you're moving, you're good.
I think that's about right. That's fatherhood will teach you that one real quick.
I believe you. Yeah, this is sleep maxing if I ever have kids. I can fucking
I'm progressively
weather that storm.
overloading my sleep, and it's not even my choice. It's just, yeah.
Getting after it. Yeah.
A couple of things. What is your sleep stack? Like, what supplements do you recommend for sleep, and why? Run us through those.
Yeah, so I think really at the end of the day, like it's up to you. Like the main one I use, the main one that I find to be effective is melatonin. And there's lots of reasons to use it and not to use it. I think if the alternative for someone is like you're not going to sleep, but melatonin helps you get there, melatonin is what you should use. Like it's like we should not this should be the easiest thing you do in life is to have a good night of sleep, and you should not be struggling through any amount of that. And so I think it might have even been you, Max, said it this way, but like if you get hit in the head with a hammer to fall asleep, like you're still falling asleep, and if that hammer happens to be melatonin, like whatever, and so that's like I think the one that can be the most controversial. But other than that, I mean, like tryptophan, GABA, magnesium 3 and 8, those are pretty much staples in my stack. And then I think for me it's really regulating like a lot of the light at nighttime. That was probably like one of the worst habits I had, was like, okay, I'm gonna be on my phone for 30 minutes like before I put it down on the counter and just try to knock out. That one helped me a lot. That was a negative habit from being a shithead teenager. But
what about, you ever looked into like meditation stuff? Because if you said like kind of stress stuff, like are you just thinking about stuff, you wake up in the middle of the night and can't sleep, or is it falling asleep?
I would argue that my problem's falling asleep. Staying asleep is, just kind of dependent on the day, I think. But the I've done meditation in the past. I think where I struggle is that can actually be a worse environment for me, is to just like be like sit there like alone with the thoughts. You know what I mean? So meditation, like for sleep related stuff, hit or miss, but like during the day is actually when I prefer to do it if I'm going to do some of it. I don't want it tied to sleep, because I can like pump myself the fuck up doing meditation for sure. Okay. I like to use it for training for the sleep. So
cool.
Yeah. Well, take us through some. I mean, I didn't want to give away your whole life story in the intro.
Yeah.
So, like, how'd you get into training people? And take us through your internship at Westside Barbell.
Yeah, sure. So I got into training people mostly because it just made sense that if I wanted to learn, because I got into this selfishly, like I wanted to learn the best way to train myself and to like push my limits, and I figured the best way to learn how to do that for myself was to do it on other people and kind of see where their shortcomings were and use that to help myself and build on that. And it evolved a lot from that, like, kind of 18-year-old brain. And I started training when I was at a gym in Chicago called Equinox. It's like a relatively big chain.
It's
sure,
like
a ton of people have heard about it.
Small little gym called Equinox.
That's right. That's right. And I think, me, but probably the people listening don't. That's not my culture. Like at the end of the day, like, this like foofy fucking city gym, like as awesome as it was to work there, because I had a great fucking job, I don't give a fuck about that shit. and at the end of the day, like I never pictured myself training like, your gen pop folks en masse. I always wanted to work with people who weren't just trying to get through the day as much as they were trying to like become something they couldn't really do without someone else's help. And so that's why I look to sport, I look to performance, all those things. And I was encouraged by my boss at Equinox, who's awesome guy, his name's Todd Anderson, to look into Westside Barbell. and, kind of find that certification, because he knew that, like, that would probably lead me to some solid places, at least from an educational standpoint. Little did I know that, like, that would lead me to eventually interning there. And, working with a coach there, his name's Joe Lasco, who's a really awesome guy, and just kind of like having an unbelievable experience at Westside. So for me, like, the Westside thing came about really because I trained with Joe when I was training up for the Marine Corps. And then, got injured, and, had some mental health issues that kind of came thereafter with that whole thing. I kind of like didn't really get to fulfill that dream that I had, but I knew I loved training people, and I knew that I wanted to start training warfighters. Was really kind of the focus there. And so had great rapport with Joe, and he kind of passed it by Louis, God rest his soul, that they should invite this little 150-pound Marine twink to come lift at Westside, and they let me, which was a huge surprise. And yeah, it was a awesome, incredible experience, one I will never forget for sure. But yeah, they definitely took a chance on me, and it is still paying off to this day.
The fact you got to train. I mean, Joe's an incredible coach, but you got to train under Louis Simmons, which is like one of the godfathers of strength training.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. What are the top 2 or 3 things you learned while you're at Westside? And I want to get into the top 2 or 3 stories.
Yeah. So I think, I got to work hands-on with a lot of their MMA guys. So Matt Brown was probably the most popular name at the time.
We had him on the pod.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I don't think I
Matt
knew
Brown's
that.
my
That's
boy.
awesome. Yeah, he's a good dude, man. And it was a lot of fun working with those guys. And I think, like, what I realized pretty quickly is that, like, programming at the elite level to, like, your kind of high school athlete to, your person who's first time in the gym, like, it's it's just how cool what they're doing in the gym looks, but it's all the same principles at the end of the day. And I think, like, that was a big takeaway for me, was like, hey, when we had like an NFL guy come in, it's like, yeah, you're doing this all, you're just doing it with 800 pounds on your back. You know what I mean? Like, but it's the same stuff's working for me squatting like 345 at the time, right? And it's going to work for, like, the person who's like, it's their first day in the gym. Now, do I think everyone needs max effort, dynamic effort, craziness, like, right off the bat, like true Westside style? No. But once you have like a kind of a standard training age under your belt, like, it doesn't really matter what you do. What matters is that you fucking show up 3 to 4 times a week and let it rip. And a big part of their training paradigm is intensity. And I think that to me, and the way I train and the way that I train my athletes, like, that is always the focus, is like, we have to get to failure. We have to fail. We have to go hard. And, like, every time you go in the gym, there is no, like, oh, I need to do like 10 sets at like RPE fucking 6. Like, you're a fucking dork. No, you need to, like, especially for a sport like powerlifting, you need to fucking lift hard. You need to lift fucking heavy, and you need to do it often. It needs to become like second nature. And it takes years to develop a nervous system to do something like that. And, seeing the guys that were like at the peak of their sport or peak of powerlifting that were lifting there, it's like, dude, it takes brick after brick. And, like, if those bricks are weak as shit and cracked in the middle, like, your fucking house is going to explode. So those were kind of like the main training takeaways, like, at least, like, general. I can get as nitty gritty into the science as you want, but, like, in intensity, consistency, like, none of that shit changes at the top, and is probably why you're at the top to begin with.
So what about I think it's a great point. Like, intensity is such a big deal, but how do you balance that with, like, let's take Matt Brown as an example.
Yeah.
Obviously he's got a lot of other training demands, and you got, a recoverability factor for an athlete. How did you program stuff like that, where it's like, we're getting some intensity in here, but also he's not shot walking into striking, walking into a grappling, walking into, all these
Right.
other practices he's got every day?
Totally. Yeah. So if I look at Matt's stuff specifically, he had been training at Westside for years. So he, like, what's normal for someone is very abnormal for someone else, right? And so I wouldn't just throw like an MMA guy off the street right into like that full speed Westside style program, but Matt could do it because he'd been doing it for a decade. you know? So that's to say that I think training age, training history is like critical at the intake level to understand. Because if someone is not prepared for that, you can injure them really quickly. If they are prepared for it, if they have a ton of physical capacity, like probably good to go. Now, wrestlers, MMA guys tend to come with that because they've just been grinding for a long time. The real question for me then becomes, have they been doing the right stuff for a long time, or have they been training like shit but training really hard? And those are two completely different, like, you know, ways to kind of move forward with it. So if an athlete has like a ton of cardio demand, I mean, you guys obviously know, like, you know, you're full speed in a wrestling season, I'm probably not going to double dip with a bunch of metabolic conditioning in the weight room. Like, that's, you get that in practice. You get that when you are going and like competing as well. You know what I mean? Like, that is your sport. If we're talking wrestlers here, it's like, this is very demanding in that way. What you're never going to have in a wrestling match, no matter what you're doing, is a max effort contraction, slow, right? So it's like lifting really heavy, limited volume is a great way to get that nervous system ramped up, but not necessarily tax that tissue, tax that metabolic system in that way. So it's really about understanding their demand and where they're at. Now, if you're a guy who's going, you know, like if you were essentially Ryan in your prime, Max in your prime, like a heavyweight versus I forget what weight class you were at, Ryan, but not heavyweight. You know,
That's
you
right.
might get that max effort contraction, right, on your stuff because you're going against a dude that might face that. But that's not really how the sport works on a day to day. You may have like one bout that like ends up being like that, but it's just not how it's going to work. But those little small, like, if you come against someone who you can go head to head with, you know, and have a lot of those, like, it's a little more rare. Usually it's like, hey, you're smoking this guy, it's a somewhat even match, or, you know, you're getting smoked.
Yeah.
And max effort just doesn't really exist in that typical way. Heavy lifting doesn't exist, so it lets us train something that's not being necessarily crushed as you are going through your sport. And that's a great way to think about it, in my opinion.
I think I love that point, and we talk about this all the time, Cooper. I think this is a mistake a lot of coaches make, is they try and emulate the sport in the strength conditioning training.
Yeah.
And the law of specificity is like, they're trying to apply the law of specificity, but it's in the wrong way, because the law of specificity would say that the most effective training for your sport is doing the sport, like wrestling.
Yeah.
At Iron Summit, we are about getting everything we can out of our workouts and everyday lives. If you aren't wearing a pair of barefoot or wide toe box trainers, you are leaving gains on the table. The Sashi Athletics Ronin Ichi Minimalist Trainer is a perfect barefoot shoe. Not only does it perform like other major brands on the market, it is actually good looking. Even my wife says so. Get a pair today for 10% off with the code IronSummit10. Link is in the bio.
So like in the weight room, basically what you're saying, like in the weight room, Cooper's programming not to try and emulate the sport, but to train you in the weight room, to tax the tissues you want to tax at the intensities you want, under the loads you want. And a lot of times it should look actually quite different from the energy systems you're using in your sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all for off season, man. Like that's when you're not wrestling, is we can work on all that. When you're wrestling, it's like, all right, you are. So why double dip here? Yeah, absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, I think. And I mean, you got to have like an intimate knowledge of, you know, the sport you're talking about too, if you're training somebody for that. Let's just go to like general, you're just trying to put on as much muscle as possible. What's the biggest thing you've learned over the years in terms of like, this is a fast way to stack on muscle? Obviously intensity's in there. What other, you know, 2 or 3 tips do you have for, you know, general fitness bro trying to look good?
Yeah, totally. So good question. As someone who is a like chronically skinny dude growing up, I mean, I came into high school freshman year at like 120. I mean, that's fucking little. You know what I mean? I was probably like 5'8".
Yo,
Like
I
that's
had you beat. I
fucking,
was 99 pounds going into freshman football.
that's just wild. Yeah, dude. I was that. Oh, that's even crazier. Oh, now, dude, how beefed up you are now. Like, I think so. Here's one thing that I think is very overlooked and actually ties into like that athlete history we were talking about. Like, if you've never played a sport in your life, like, I'm sorry, this shit's going to take a really fucking long time. You don't have a metabolic system. You don't have a nervous system. You don't have tissue architecture. You have none of this like concept called like a neural map. Like your brain doesn't even know that like you have fucking calves that are separate from hamstrings. Like it doesn't even realize that exists for like if we're talking like truly new, like never done any of this shit before, never even played a sport. And that sucks, right? But that's true and that's real. And when I have a high school football player, there's one kid in particular I'm thinking about. He was in the band until sophomore year. He never played sports, and then he's like, I want to play college football. There ain't enough time in the world, dog. I'm sorry, but like this is just like not how it works. There are guys that have been physically developing, like have just general sports IQ that is a decade and a half already. Like I can't I can't pack that into a $200 a month training program that like there's no program on the fucking planet, right? That's going to like pull this athletic IQ out of nowhere. And that's where I think like you can be a lot kinder to yourself in the process if you understand like just the matter of fact about where you've been and what you're trying to do. And you got to start thinking in decades. And so like as such, right, like if we've got a guy who's like played high school sports and was an athlete and kind of kept healthy in college and is just like an adult trying to look better, like I think it kind of boils down to getting in like consistent habits. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be the exact habits you need, but like one change at a time, on the nutrition side and one change at a time on the lifting side is like where I usually start with people. So that might be more general than you're looking for, but let me know where you want me to get
What
more
are some
specific.
specifics then from there?
Let's say somebody's got a training, been training for 5 to 10 years, got basics down, but like now is seriously trying to put on some muscle.
Yeah. So in that case, I would argue that the first place I actually send people to go look is blood work. Because you might be doing this stuff on hard mode, if you don't have the right testosterone, growth hormone, all that kind of stuff in the mix, and just understanding kind of like what normal is in that regard. So let's say you've got an established normal, and you have that internal environment that's kind of ready to do this stuff and not get injured and have all that stuff. Really fall back on like it's pretty classic, but it's like working the front of your body and then we're going to work the back of your body, and it's like anterior focus leg day, it's a chest shoulders tries day, it's a posterior focus leg day, and it's like a back day. And I think the more you get into finding ways to train both like all four of those lifts like our workouts in a week in a way where you're recovering and able to pack on tissue, like it's doing that over a long period of time. And I think putting specific emphasis on heavy lifting, like, and lifting like much like with my athletes, like, and maybe this is a concept of hypertrophy that's interesting to explore, but at the end of the day, like if you're not eating enough of the right food, and you don't have the biochemical output to put on muscle tissue, hypertrophy training is just like making tissue harder to tear, and it's the food that's going to actually make you put size on. And so if you can start to like really leverage essentially strength training, but in the context of eating enough to get there, you are going to be in an awesome spot. There is no one on this planet benching 405 that's a skinny fuck. Zero.
That's fair.
It's like, no, you need the arms that are capable, like you need big fucking arms. You're not doing 405 if you got little bitch arms. Right? You're not fucking squatting like 7 with twigs. It just doesn't happen. Like it'd be fucking hard to do. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm like, yeah, it's like it all comes back to just like get stronger, put more fucking weight on the bar, stress this shit more. And like stop trying to find like these ways to like not train fucking intense. Like, oh, I mean, CNS is going to be all fucking like bothered if I don't do it. It's like, you don't have a CNS to begin with that like can actually fuck you up that way. You haven't trained hard enough to have that like actually fucking like make you not be able to think at work for 48 hours. Like that's not how that fucking works. Like you have not trained that. You haven't earned that yet. I haven't earned that yet. Like, and I'm doing like, 2.5 times body weight on like squat and deadlift. I'm like, I'm still fucking fine. Maybe 3, maybe 4. Maybe that'll be like, hey, I gotta like take a day off work because I'm fucking cooked. And like think about actually not pulling 800 pounds. Like maybe, but I haven't gotten there yet. And Max, I don't know if you agree, but like when I've seen you train, Ryan, when I've seen you train, like you can still do like a good amount of shit. Like if you go to a 10 out of 10 on a sessions, there's really no excuse to not put yourself there all the time. Because that's what actually tears tissue down and forces some adaptation to occur.
I mean, I totally agree. I know one thing you had to, and I'll pose this question. This is like the other side of the spectrum, but you had to do it with me. It's like that wrestler mindset is like, hey, actually like pull back a little bit. Mm-hmm. You don't need to kill yourself on everything. We can find the places where you kill yourself, but also we need to be smart here, not get injured. Yep. And that's actually something you helped me with a lot. How do you know like when an athlete's at that point?
So there's 3 kinds of restoration according to the books. And they talk about like 75% of this shit comes down to what's called pedagogical restoration. And that's just how you lay out your training. Right. And so there's ways to do this where you can go to a 10 out of 10. But if you're not like using the exact variations really well, and on top of that, you are someone who has a really high output, like force potential, you can be playing with fire like very, very quickly here. Like this is where I think people get really nervous to train like elite level athletes, is because that they do have 800 pounds on the bar sometimes. They do have like a 500-pound bench. And it's like, if that gets a little out of whack, like you're exposing $10 million shoulder to, like a ton of force, and you're ruining it like outside their sport. And so I think that like with that mindset, you're going to get most of it by just learning how to program right. And learning how to pick the right variation at the right time. And you can leverage that mindset. Now, if the program's not written well, the athlete is probably going to get injured. And that's where I think guys run into stuff is like, you just can't give someone who's at kind of like close to the limit of their just structural potential. You can't be giving them a program that you'd be giving like someone new to this who doesn't have that neurological output. And so that's kind of how I think about that there. Now there's like medico-biological restoration, which that's like food, like massage, like those, like, stretching, like doing some of that, like additional like body work and supplements and all those things. But that only ends up accounting for probably like 15-20%. And then like, honestly, 5 to 10% of it is like psychological, like restoration, like laying down and just like doing nothing.
That's such a good point. And Austin Stout, we just listened to him speak. He said, he had this quote that I thought was really good. He said, like, discipline and adherence is extremely effective up until the point it stresses you out. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, like something a lot of coaches don't take into account, is like, if I give my athlete these precise macros that are, they are calibrated to help them recover, and they're perfectly set for them to be in a 2% weight gain per month in like of muscle mass, like in theory, that's all awesome until like adhering to that stresses the athlete out.
Yep.
How do you work that in? Because that's something as a coach, you can't, like, some people like myself, like I like that, like it stresses me out not to adhere. Mm-hmm. But some people, it's the opposite. It's like they get too focused on it. If they're like couple percent off, they're starting to beat themselves up. Like how do you kind of read that in an athlete?
Yeah, good question. I had an athlete who's running half marathon was like, we're not running enough. And I'm like, okay, like, well, we are. We're actually doing a fair amount of running. And by the way, you don't really, or you are nowhere close to even squatting body weight. So like you don't have the tissue architecture to do this. Oh, and by the way, you played water sports growing up. So not only that, but you have no base here. That being said, right, you kind of got it. Like I hear a lot of coaches say the same thing, and it's like, no, like you don't give the athlete what they want, you give them what they need. And it's like, okay, great, thank you. Like, but that's like not like that's actually not going to be the case. Like, because of what you said, it's like, no, okay, like I will give you more running knowing full well you might get like fucking hurt doing this. Like, but I'm willing to listen to you, give you the more running you're asking for, and let you hit that brick wall yourself if you do. If you don't, then okay, like then we can keep doing this and you'll be right and I'll just be like, yeah, like I like you clearly you can tolerate it, so let's do it. But at the end of the day, like there's just biological laws and truths that as a coach, like if you don't understand and you go over those lines too many times, like yeah, you're doing the wrong thing. But the athlete's telling you something, you kind of got to give it to them a little bit and let them make that mistake for themselves, or they prove you wrong. And I think when that's the case, like you said, like the athlete's coming to you stressed out and concerned and verbalizing that, it might feel like they're being high maintenance and not trying to listen to you. But I think actually at the end of the day, you are being high maintenance and not listening to them. And at the end of the day, they're the fucking one in the arena anyway. So what the fuck do you care? You know, I think a lot of coaches like to think that they're somehow in the arena living as their athlete, but it's like, no, the fuck you're not. Like, so let the athlete have a psychologically like advantageous path to success. And like, yeah, if they get fucked up, then you can be like, what are you really gonna be like? Oh, I fucking told you so. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? You're like, but you guys should be like working together through that problem. You're not on two separate fucking islands there. So I don't know if that answers the question, but
I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's such a good point. I learned that from Coach Ayers at Stanford when I was coach out there. Like we would have guys come in the office and they'd kind of have some, everybody's got this idea for themselves. Like, I think I need to do this. I need more of this. I need more of this. And, we just kind of sit there and listen. And then, we kind of debrief as a staff after. And Ayers would always hear them out, be like, they got to be bought in on the plan. He's like, there is no upside in forcing an athlete, especially like somebody's hurt and wants to wait an extra week or something. And you're like, I've watched him wrestle in practice. He's ready to go. He's like, there's only downside. If he hurts himself again, he's blaming you. If he doesn't, he's not happy because you forced him to do it. It's like you got to give them some kind of autonomy, and you can give your opinion, you can give guidance. But when it's like a partnership and not a dictatorship, people buy in a lot more. And I think that's such a great point with an athlete is you got to kind of let them make their own mistakes. You try to guide them away from them. But like if you really force somebody like, hey, you're not doing this, they're probably just going to do it anyways. And then, you're in the same spot. Like, I don't know.
they just
But
can't fucking not like each other.
yeah.
That undermines the whole thing.
That's where like there's like the science of coaching, which is, hey, you got to be following this program. This is the most effective thing. This is the most effective diet. And then the art of coaching, which is listening to the athlete, ensuring their buy-in, ensuring that this is something that works for them. Because at the end of the day, everyone is unique and an individual. And to your point, Cooper, to kind of bring it back, the psychological aspect of recovery and training is like 15 to 20%. It's a huge piece. So if they're stressing out about not gelling with your program and not having a coach who listens, you're actually hurting your athlete.
Yeah, it's like all this stuff is like so intermixed. And like, yeah, if you guys are running dumbass training, like at the end, yeah, everyone's like failing. But like that, yeah, that like you said, that small percent, like you think it's small, but it's fucking massive. Like it's massive to be able to tap into that. And that's the difference between, I think most of the championship programs is the culture that comes from that 15 to 20%. Like at the end of the day, like the human body is not changed in thousands of years probably, and isn't going to change in thousands more. Like the science is the science. We're all kind of figuring it out as we go, but like most people like are kind of using loosely the right stuff, but it's the attitude and the partnership. Like you said, Ryan, like I really believe in that. Like, yeah, partnership. It's a partnership with the athlete, not you telling them what to do and always being right. Like that never works.
Love it. Well, I want to get back to, what is your favorite story from Westside?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a two-parter, right? So there's kind of like where I'm living, and then there's kind of like my walk to work one fucking morning that resulted in a very fucking crazy situation where I actually got to use some wrestling out in the wild. So for any like wrestling fans, like, dude, you get to hear a fucking real story of like not this fucking shit you got you two dumbasses do on the mats. All right, this is fucking like real.
This is real wrestling.
Some fucking real wrestling. All right,
bare knuckles.
So Joe, my coach, he's like, I'm like, hey, like, where should I like live, stay, like while I'm here? Like, just need to kind of find something easy, close to the gym. Would prefer to walk if that's even a thing. And he's like, yeah, I know a place. I'm like, all right, like, whatever, like, check it out. Like, hit the guy up. It's like $800 a month, and I'll send you guys like pictures of the place because it's a vibe, dude. It's a vibe. And like I get there and it's like I open the door and there's like a lamp without a lampshade, so it's just like the fucking sun. You turn on the fucking sun in the room, and it's like if you look that direction, it hurts. Like there's like fucking, it's like concrete blocks and like I don't know, like something fucking growing on the wall. Like this is a fucked ass up place, right? And but I'm like, yeah, it's close. It's 8 weeks, whatever. Like I've lived in Marine Corps barracks. It can't be worse than having 90 fucking smelly ass dudes like trying to beat their meat in the middle of the night, fucking like on fucking all sides of you, right? So it's fine, it's whatever.
That's true.
One day I wake up and Louis like Louis actually didn't, I don't think, fucking sleep. Like I don't think he ever slept. Like he was up all the time, and I don't know fucking why. I think it's because the what he said was like he like broke his neck, and so like anytime like his neck relaxed, it like pushed on that nerve, and he'd like wake up, start like breathing like a psychopath. So he'd just like drive around at all hours of the night and like whatever. And I'm like waking up at like fucking 3:30 to sit with him in the lot outside Westside for like an hour, before we train, which was always something. There was always something fucking fun we were talking about in the car there. And this is one of the mornings where like he's like, man, I'm not picking you up. And I'm like, okay. So I gotta walk. I'm walking, and I'm white, right? It's pretty easy to tell for anyone who's watching. I got a little Korean in me, and I like to think that that's like the hood side of me, right? is the Korean part, and so I am in fact hood IQ is a little up, right? To the point where I know that red shirt versus blue shirt is not a good fucking thing, right? And I'm like walking up to the gas station where like I usually go just like grab like an energy drink or some Gatorade to like fuel this workout I'm about to go get fucked by. And yeah, I see red and blue shirts, and I'm like, like it's finally happening. Like I'm finally get to see someone die in the wild. Like and like so like I start like bounding towards like the gas station, and I'm like, wait, hold on, fuck, like these people are not fighting, they're like screaming, running around. I'm like, wait, and they're like something else is going on, because I realized that this is the gas station employees in their like red versus blue uniform, and they were just like going crazy. And I'm like, oh, like something bad's happening here, like, and like I should probably go like check it out. And I'll send you guys the videos if you want to like overlay it or whatever. But there is a dude on PCP go like destroying this fucking gas station, trying to climb into the ceiling so that he can like go over this like locked door and kill the woman who works the cash register. I'm not kidding. This dude is like off his fucking rocker, like threatening to kill this old lady who, like, mind you, I'd been buying like energy drinks from for the last 4 weeks. I would die for this woman. He's dude shirtless, fucking bleeding everywhere, like fucking screaming, like breaking shit. He like tears down all the shelves. He's like ripping stuff out of the ceiling. And like all the gas station workers are like, what do we do? And it's like, well, we gotta go fucking get him. Like, you can't just fucking like go in there and like kill this lady. Like, what the fuck? So like, you know, here's a crazy thing, right? Like, and this is why I think, to relate this to wrestling, this is why I think everyone should fucking do wrestling or some sort of martial art. We called the cops and it took them over an hour to get there, right? Like over a fucking hour. That is enough time for you to bleed out fucking 50 times over. Yep. Like, this is dangerous fucking shit, right? And like the cops are like nowhere to be found. So eventually, like, we just start distracting the guy and kind of like, hey, no one wants to fucking touch this freak. He's bleeding. God fucking knows what's in his blood. You might be getting instant AIDS. Okay, like something bad like is coming out of this guy. Like, and so, you know, he, I think eventually in his PCP ridden brain adds 2 + 2 and realizes he's got to get the fuck out of here, or like someone's gonna start like beating his ass. But we're like, no, like, you're not fucking like running away and getting away with this. Like, we're gonna fuck you up. And so he leaves. It's me and like 6 other dudes. I fucking shoot the double leg, fucking we take him down. And like, I don't think I've ever felt, and mind you, I'm lifting amongst the strongest men on the planet while I'm at Westside. I've never fucking felt strength like that in my life. PCP is insane. This is a mildly fat, out of shape man, like, who is using 100% of his potential, which is a lot. This is like 100 men versus a gorilla thing right here, right? Like one fucking crackhead versus 6 sober people, you know. And anyway, we take him down. Guys start just fucking beating the fuck out of him, and it's kind of like we're in the situation of like, hey, stop like fucking punching him in the head. He might die, and then we all have to go to fucking jail, right? Or prison or fucking some shit. Even though I don't think we would actually have to, like, but I'd prefer to not have any court date where I have to do a fucking thing about this and come back to Columbus, Ohio to do this. So we basically are just like, well, what can we do? And we fucking choked him out probably like 7 times. Like, I'm not kidding. And I'm like, but then it reached a point of like, okay, but how many times can you choke a man out on PCP before they just fucking die? And it's like, well, I don't know. So like, we basically just start throwing him into a full Nelson and like fucking like actually fucking like wrestling him, like holding his ass on the ground and finding leverage and fucking pinning him there. And the cops, like, we're here now. It's like, oh, great. Hey, I'm fucking sweating a lot right now. All right, because I've been doing your job for the last hour here. And like, we're all just like, finally, thank God. And I have the video of this motherfucker getting tased on my phone because I was like, world star. All right, I'm fucking, I'm out of the mix here. I'm fucking filming this shit. And so I start like, you know, recording. I watch him get tased and fucking, you know, roped off and whatever. And I'm like, I gotta go to the fucking gym. I'm like late, right? I'm like fucking stressing out. They're like, hey, I gotta go fucking lift. Like, they're gonna wonder where the fuck I am. They had no fucking, they were like, oh, I didn't even know you weren't fucking here, you weak little shit. You know, when I show up and like, so I show up to Westside, I'm like, hey, Louie, like, just fought a crackhead for an hour. Sorry I'm late. What should I do? And he's like, I don't give a fuck about that. Go do a Zercher deadlift 1 rep max. And I was like, cool. Yeah, awesome. Mind you, my adrenaline is gone. There's none left in my body. Like, my hands are like shaking from this encounter. I'm fucking smoked. Like, but you gotta fucking do what the man says. All right. And so I go rip a fucking Zercher max, have the shittiest fucking lift of my life, and never get asked about it again. Louis was like, I do not give a fuck. That sounds like a normal Tuesday for me. And living here on the west side of Columbus. So like, get in the fucking rack. And that was like, dude, that was like Louis to a T. Like, didn't fucking matter what you just did, what you had going on in your life. You're fucking training. This is a lifestyle. This is what it's all about, dude. Like, cool. You should have fucking like wrestled him harder and like, I don't know, like fucking done a better job. Just conserved your energy, got your cardio up. And yeah, that's like probably that's my favorite West Side story, because I think it like shows the culture that was at that gym like through and through. But also, like, you know, for you guys, just like, yeah, this is like where this shit can save your life and save other people's lives, and is a lot of fucking fun when you get to actually do it, especially on a motherfucker crackhead.
Did you think about like, not my problem, I'm walking away, or you were just like, all right, I'm committed now?
I don't know, dude. This is my problem. If I ever see shit like that, it's my problem now.
That's cool.
I'm always excited. I'm always excited to scrap with a crackhead as long as I've verified there's no knife that the crackhead has. Dude, I'm down. Yeah, it's awesome. Because, like, you know, and I knew he didn't have a knife because his fucking ass was out, by the way, too, mind you. So his dick and balls and asshole are out, and like his fucking like pants are around like his fucking ankles. He's got no shirt. I'm like, there's no knife here. All right, like
he's keystering it.
Yeah, like I can fucking do this. Let's do this. This is awesome.
I learned one thing from this story. Why would anyone do PCP?
You should have taken it before you wrestled. Okay, I don't know if that's on the banned substances list, but you could have gotten after it harder.
I don't know if you'd stay in the circle. That's the problem. You start eating somebody's face.
Start fucking launching in the fan section. Yeah,
Cooper, that is a phenomenal. What about how much muscle did you put on that summer? Like I'm sure you know.
Good question. Yeah, so I came in at like 150. Mind you, I've been training to swim and run and like tread water like a motherfucker. So like I can't weigh that much to do that.
Uh-huh.
I got up to 170 across 8 weeks. That's like fucking ballooned up. Like, and not like fat either. Like it was straight fucking muscle. And I think that like for me, it was like training at Westside was not the hardest thing I'd ever done. Like, so I was actually like pretty chill, pretty relaxed there. Like people were like, what's it like? How hard is it? I'm like, dude, I just spent like the last 6 months training to drown. Like, this is not like, it's not an air conditioned gym, but it's a fucking gym with walls and a roof. And no one's trying to like fucking just suffocate you under the water. Like, this is fine. And so, yeah, it was like, I think I just like finally had like a stress-free environment, like relatively, where it was just focus on lifting, fucking get your mind right. Like this to me was like Zen. This was like a time to like meditate. And so I think I just like, what I've noticed is if I'm super stressed, I don't add muscle very easily. When I'm very chill, very relaxed, life's good, like fucking put the fucking super jet on this thing and let's go. Yeah.
His Zen was fighting Crackhead.
Yes.
Cooper's Zen is west side of Columbus.
Yeah, man. I wish I could go back right now and relive that. That was so fun.
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool. Not many people get to say they studied under Louis Simmons.
Yeah.
So that's
a wild man, that's for sure.
That's pretty cool.
There's stories I'm not allowed to tell, you know? That, like,
we'll get those out after, you know, we'll take you out first. And then
we can do off the record in an open field where the government can't hear.
That's awesome.
Dude, it was a great experience. Can't say enough too, like how, I mean, you know, to speak to Louis' credit too, like, dude, he had no idea who I was. He just knew I needed help at the time. And needed to get like my feet back under me and was like, yep, like get him here as long as he's like smart and isn't going to be a dickhead. Like, absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah. He's a legendary dude. I mean, he's a little rough around the edges, but he'd give you the shirt off his back in a heartbeat, and forever love and respect that man for that, and especially for doing that for me. So
yeah, that's awesome. So what about like current training? Like obviously you're doing a bunch of different things now.
Yeah.
What are your current goals? How are you, I feel like you're hitting PRs every other week. How are you, continuing to improve after so many years of training? And then what's up with like, I don't know, I'll see you do max depth jumps, and like, where do you get like these things? Why are those ideas in your head? Like, I want to test this today.
Yeah, so I think like as far as goals go, I want to have a 60-inch box jump. That one's important to me for no reason other than it's fucking fun and a little scary and hard.
I love it.
And I think like my whole approach to training is like, I don't compete in anything, man. Like, I don't care. Like, there's nothing like physically that I'm like, oh, I need to go dominate at that. It's like, no, I just like, I think this is cool and I want to do it. And so my approach, like the 60-inch box jump, is like, if a quarter Korean, Irish, Italian man can do this, then like, dude, like, so can you. Like, there is nothing genetically special other than my ability to endure famine and pestilence with my like genetic lineage. All right. Like, It's like if I can do something like that like, you know, Duke lacrosse posts and it's like, oh, it's so fucking cool. It's like, dude, you can do like whatever the fuck you want. And I think like having a mindset of like, in theory, the body's like actually capable of doing anything. It's just, can you stress it at the right level where you're not going to break it? But also, can you stress it enough where you're not under stressing it, right? And finding that Goldilocks zone of anything. So when I'm doing like a 90, I got to do 100-inch depth drop soon. But like when I'm doing that, it's like, because I just did fucking 90, and you're not going to tell me that like 100 is where I explode. Like if I've done 95 a few times, like 100. Like, and yeah, probably there is a point where my bones just are like, fuck you, you know, and don't work, but I haven't found that yet. And like, if I, you know, follow the rules, so to speak, like the left and right boundaries of like physics and, you know, like just understanding biology and chemistry, like it's just time, you know, and people do way freakier shit than I'm doing every fucking day. And I think how they get there is like overriding fear, and not being scared to throw another fucking 30 pounds on and see what happens. So what, like you fail, so what? Like you probably aren't strong enough for that to hurt you anyway. You just fucking make sure you have the pin set up so you don't kill yourself. Like it's like really the only way you're gonna fucking die here is if you just are a dumbass. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think like for me, like in training, I change variations all the time. Like, and I think like this is maybe a cool framework that maybe you've not heard yet, but like, yeah, I want more weight on the bar when I squat, but I'm looking to get the squat pattern strong and all the benefits that being able to squat everywhere can bring. Like, I'm not trying to add 100 pounds onto my straight bar. I want like 10 different bars that I'm using, or like 10 different bands, chains, like setups, box squats. Like, I want those to all get 50 pounds stronger. And that's like, to me, athletic performance wise, like that's how you build 3-dimensional strength, is not like picking one thing to get good at, but picking a like more global idea to put a lot of strength under. And you know, if you added 100 pounds to your squat right now, straight bar, like great. But if you added 60, 70 pounds, like 15 different variations, that's like a million more angles, intermuscular coordinations that you are stronger at now. And that's what it means to be a better athlete at the end of the day, unless you're a power lifter, or unless you're an Olympic weightlifter, unless you're a strongman. And that's what probably like most sports are all about. And really, I'm just training to be a fucking piss missile at the end of the day. So it's being strong anywhere, everywhere, so that when I get into adult wrestling, which I want to do, not adult film wrestling, adults that wrestle. All right. You know, that
like
I can
WWE,
go, like,
or are we talking like BJJ type?
no, I'm
adult
talking
wrestling?
like they need to fucking make adult wrestling clubs, because I don't want to go do jujitsu, man.
Hey, they actually, Reese Humphrey, who we had on the podcast too, he's starting adult wrestling clubs. There's like 2 or 3 that I know of right now. So
Is there one around here?
we can
In
start
Colorado?
one. We can
We
start
should
one.
do it.
I would fucking love it, dude. I want to so bad. I think jiu-jitsu is fucking lame.
My buddy I wrestled with in college, John Bullock, he started one in the Lehigh Valley called Mat Return. I know he does stuff with Reese, but
Wait,
I mean, the Lehigh Valley is like the hotbed of wrestling in the United
Yeah.
States, so it's blown up there. But I think there's a real desire for, and he has guys who have never wrestled before to like former Division I All-Americans, all just
Yeah.
coming in and scrapping.
that's what I want. That's what I want. You just
Let's-
need to tell me how to do this. all
Let's
right?
find the place and let's do it.
I'm so down, dude. Yeah, because I like, I don't know. For me, like jujitsu gets a little funky with like some of the injuries. I'm like that, and that's just for me. Is like, look, I don't know how to do this. I have like a lot of strength under my fucking belt. Like, yeah, I know I can get my shit fucked up wrestling too, but like, I don't want some dickhead to tear my ACL just like fucking like because he decides knee bar is like what we're fucking doing today, or like ankle locking me. I'm like, that's like, all right, I don't want that. I was on health insurance for a while, so I think that's like why I probably was like freaking out. You know what I mean about this more, and like, you know, I'm kind of like, maybe like now that I do have health insurance, maybe like that I don't give a fuck as much. You know, so I got to sort through that like mental side of things, but like, yeah, I'm ready to wrestle right now on health insurance.
There's also, if you're, and this I might insult a few jiu-jitsu folks, but if you're training to be a piss missile just in life, you're not gonna, that crackhead you encountered at Westside, you're not gonna pull guard on him.
Get my guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
You're gonna
fuck?
double leg him and then ride,
Yeah.
like hold them on the ground wrestling.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and I agree with you. That's why I think it's like, I'm like, yeah, good to know that I can pressure on the neck, fuck someone up. Like, no shit. Like, like, thank you. I need to know how to fuck him, get him on the ground. Like, like drop him on his fucking head. Like, that's what I need.
That's
So,
awesome. Hey,
yeah.
Cooper, we could talk all day. I got one last question, unless Max has anything else. And where do you think like biggest changes, or where the fitness industry is going, like strength training? Where are the biggest gains going to be in the next 10 to 20 years of this industry?
Good question. I think for me, the most interesting research right now is around hypertrophy and what in particular stimulates those mechanisms more than anything else. And I think like what people are starting to realize is like, if you just lift with free weights, good luck. Like that is like 1/1000th of what a muscle can do, is putting a straight bar on your back and squatting it. Even if you squat a lot of weight, like what about, that you never essentially hit knee extension in its fully shortened position, right? And that's where like a lot of things happen in deceleration on a football field. So like, and what's really the only way to hit like quads in a shortened position? Well, it's a fucking leg extension. And for years, coaches were like, that's not athletic and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, I mean, but then what's athletic about a squat then? What's athletic about any of this? Because it's just not playing sports. And so I think the more we learn about hypertrophy, the less injuries we're going to see on the field, because it is just strength training under a different name at the end of the day. And what's cool that people are finding is like an exercise that accentuates the lengthened position of a muscle, and then also like is the heaviest at that point, like where you're pulling out from, that the tendons, ligaments, like are actually going to see some significant amount of hypertrophy from that. And if you think about, like, to use another wrestling example, like the ugliest position you get put in is probably one where you're like in an awkward stretch and have to dig out of. That's probably where you get injured too. But if you can build strength in those positions and find ways to, I guess, become a piss missile there, you're going to be in a good spot. And I think a lot of people are catching on to that, but I think it's who catches on first, who develops the right equipment, and who can implement that at scale in a collegiate pro setting, where we're going to see like a whole new definition of strength training coming out. And the beauty of this is that like it takes this much volume, man. It just takes getting that stuff close to failure and not getting injured there, and building that over time. Because in theory, the body can tolerate anything. It just has to actually be exposed to the right stress at the right time. So that's where I think the cool stuff's coming out, and where the cool stuff will go if the right people are listening. I can't build shit, so I don't know how to fucking do it. But it's really cool to read about. And I know a guy who builds shit, and he built some shit for our gym, and it's really fun. And it works. So
yeah, that's sweet. I love it. That's such a cool perspective. And I don't know, everything, I don't know, there's going to be a lot of changes coming up. That's a cool area we'll definitely keep an eye on. Yeah. Cooper, you're absolutely the man. We got to have you on again. There's so many more things I want to cover. Yeah, this was amazing. Thanks for coming on, and
awesome.
We got to figure out an adult wrestling club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heck yeah.
I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me, and honor to be here as always.